All right, so mark the Colorado Avalanche off the list of teams who are undefeated as they suffer their first loss to the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-0. So we will talk about this. What went wrong? Is there anything good we can take out of this? And of course, we have our sound check to get to, all on a new episode of Locked On Avalanche.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and definitely subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. When you subscribe, you become one of our personal insiders, and you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we'll get to the thoughts of our subtext people a little bit later. How they're thinking about this 4-0 loss for the Avs, their first of the season. And I'm just glad to be back recording the show. We were off for a couple days. We went to go see the Islanders game. Everything was good. Maybe we should have taken the trip to Pittsburgh, because clearly we were the good luck charm why the Avalanche pulled out that win in Long Island. Why didn't we just drive, what is it, like 7 hours to from Long Island to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that'd be about a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, we could have done that. We have
I think we were the only ones that made that 7-hour drive after that game.
Well, let's get into it, man. So yeah, the Avs, you didn't want the first loss of the season to be a shutout. And I think people are going to kind of hang on the score. The Avs didn't play well, right? They did not play well. Let's not sugarcoat it. They didn't play well. But I kind of want to start with the Georgiev stuff, because when it was kind of known and not really announced, but based on morning skate, whoever leaves first is usually the opening, or whoever leaves first is usually the starter for that night. And it was Georgiev. And immediately on social media, people were like, he needs a rest. He hasn't played well the last couple of games. He's got to give him a rest. I was on the opposite end of that. I was like, no, like, he doesn't need a rest. He's played 6 games. That's not a lot. Like, he's not tired. Has he played well? No. And that's why I put him back out there, because he didn't play spectacularly in the Islanders game. So he's your number one guy. After you're gonna like bench him after he has a bad game? No, you put him back out there. Let him go through the lumps. Let him redeem himself. And for this game, Kyle, I don't think he played that bad in this game. I genuinely don't. The couple, the 2-on-1 with Malkin. Malkin made that pat, like that one he's not going to stop. The other 2, not the fourth one with Crosby, that was just an insane shot. The other 2 were bounced around, and they end up on a stick of a Penguin, and they have just a wide open net to shoot in. I don't think Georgiev played that bad. I don't think he needed a rest. Avalanche as a whole just didn't play well.
I mean, I understand the decision. It's one of those, he didn't look that great against New York. Let him catch his mojo a little bit. Let him walk out of Pittsburgh with a win. Sit him down for the Buffalo game. And depending on how hot the goalie is, go maybe possibly into the St. Louis game. Bring back a fresh Georgiev for the Vegas game. It makes sense. It's a beautiful idea. But when the rest of your team decides to not show up, it makes you look bad, because guess what? We talk about Georgiev looking incredible and stealing games, and this is the heartbeat of the team. But when things go bad, he's the first person everybody wants to point to. Mm-hmm. And it's not fair for him. It's not fair to him in this regard. Like, the Avalanche just did not look like they wanted to play. And we talked about 60-minute efforts. The Avalanche, it was not a 60-minute effort.
I don't know, man. Like I'm not there with that. I thought the effort was there. I am giving way much more credit to Pittsburgh and how they played.
Now, yeah,
They
it's
played a great game. They played 60 minutes. And I don't want to sit here and say the Avalanche were just like lethargic and weren't playing well. They were making mistake after mistake after mistake. Part of it was self-inflicted. Part of it was Pittsburgh was on them
yes.
the entire game. Gave them no room to breathe, and that was game planned. That wasn't just, hey, let's just see what happens. They went. It's like pressuring the quarterback, and you run a risk when you do that because if you get beat, you're in trouble. And that's where the Avalanche couldn't get past them. They couldn't beat them on penalty kills, or actually not penalty kills, on power plays. They just stood them up in the neutral zone. They could not get past that first line of defense. And the entire time, you're like, if they can do this, if they can do it, it was a big what if for that game. Wow, I just changed my sound check. I think I just tipped my hand there with the sound check. Okay. But they couldn't. And that was all game planned by Pittsburgh. So no, I don't want to sit here and say like the Avalanche just were continuing to shoot themselves in the foot. There were moments where they did, sure. But as a whole, I put this more on Pittsburgh playing well than the Avalanche not. That's just where I am with this game.
I see it as a little bit of both because Pittsburgh was on a 3-game losing streak.
Exactly.
Like they needed this win. We're talking about like the Avalanche getting the road record and an incredible team, unbeaten to this point, like kind of going through the motions. But we've seen this Avalanche team get hit in the mouth and have to adjust, and they do that well. And on the power play, by the way, Ofer on that power play, there were so many passes that were not tape to tape. And this was something that was also prevalent in the Islander game, but stuck out like with neon lights in the Pittsburgh game. Long, bad shift change. Bo Byram was out there for like a minute and a half. You can't,
Yeah.
when your passes aren't there and the chemistry is weird and things aren't in sync, you're not going to get there by tiring out your guys. And the Avalanche, with that Pittsburgh pressure, it's just a bad recipe, and the score reflects that.
But I think, yeah, Byron was out there for one shift, over a minute and a half. But for the second straight game, I thought he was their best defenseman.
Yes, he was great.
Cale Makar struggled. Makar had a rough game. He turned the puck over right in front of Georgiev. And that's another thing. Like that's not Georgiev's fault. I mean, I don't even think that who turned the puck over on him got a shot on goal. But I'm just saying, like, it could have ended in a disastrous fashion. But you don't see Cale Makar do that. He's just so confident in his puck handling abilities. And maybe he just got a little too lackadaisical there and he turned the puck over. But you saw turnovers, so many in the defensive zone. Avs struggled to get zone exits. They struggled to get zone entries. It was just tough. The entire game was tough. And you like seeing the Avalanche figure that out, overcome it, and start getting a goal here and there. It just never happened. They had opportunities. They had some really good opportunities. We'll talk about Tristan Jarry in a minute, but just the vibe of this game was different. You know what I mean? Like when the Avs got down, when it was 2-0, you're like, okay, anything is possible. 2-0 is not insurmountable. And then when it was 3-0, not like the like the body language from the players, it wasn't that. It was just, man, like Pittsburgh, if they just keep playing the way that they're playing, the Avs don't have a shot here. And it's different from, again, going back to that Sharks game where, the Sharks were just hanging on for dear life. Pittsburgh was in control of this game. You got beat by a team that was better than you, at least for that night. Flat out. You got beat by a team that was better than you. And again, I don't want to sit here and say the Avs played terrible. Well, yeah. Well, I don't want to say they played terrible. They played poorly because of what Pittsburgh was forcing them into. Not because, sure, again, some self-inflicted wounds, but for the most part, I'm putting this on Pittsburgh having a great game plan and sticking with it the entirety of the game, and then getting, some solid saves from Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that. I want to follow up on that in just a minute, because what you said there about the 2-0 score and not feeling out of it, there's something that goes with that, and how the Avalanche came into this game I want to touch on.
Well, stay tuned for that. If that's not a segue or something to keep you on the hook, I don't know what is. So we'll talk about that coming up next. We got a new sponsor here for everybody, and that is Parkview Advance. As a business owner, you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. And for more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital from $5,000 to $1.5 million. Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine, and we invite the many entrepreneurs that are Locked On NHL fans to learn more by calling us at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Once again, go to parkviewadvance.com. Also, we have Jace Medical today, and this is one that Kyle and I have been talking about for a little while now. It's a crazy world we live in right now, Kyle, and things are happening all over the country. And those hurricanes down south in the Florida region, all up and down the East Coast. There's times where you can be caught unprepared, and Jace Medical does not want that to happen to you. So they created the Jace case. It's a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. And you can customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. So Jace Medical now offers customizability for your Jace case. And Christmas season is just about here. You can get gift cards. So if you think somebody might be wanting to put one of these in their house, so they have it at the ready, you can get a Jace case gift card for them. Just go to jacemedical.com and enter the code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKEDON at Jace Medical. That's JASE medical.com. All right, sir. You had a thought brewing on what was happening in the game last night, so continue on that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a carryover from the Islander game. It was something we mentioned. By the way, me and Chris were sitting shoulder to shoulder during that game, and kind of giving the live thoughts during the game. The lines took some interesting looks in the Islander game.
Right.
And those same interesting looks of dropping Mikko down also was prevalent in the Pittsburgh game. And that same kind of confidence in believing in this Avalanche team to bring Georgiev out there again against Pittsburgh. When you mentioned being down 2-0, no, from line 1 to 4, none of those lines felt like they had any cohesion. Like we've had episodes like the Everydayers know, we'll tout like the Ross Colton line. We'll talk, wow, Ryjo's looking good. Nathan McKinnon, he's a beast. LOC on that 4th line. Nothing was clicking. And then you're having to work back to a line that works. It's good that you could talk about the top 9 of the Colorado Avalanche, but if you're getting kind of bold with how the lines look because you don't think they're working, games like this when a team wants it more and Colorado's just kind of playing with house money at this point. I think that was an instance of it catching up to them. Like,
yeah,
none of the lines had cohesion. There was no energy, and it was one of those keep rolling. Now let's get back. And Pittsburgh knew what they were doing as soon as the puck dropped in the first period.
Yeah, I mean, there were moments where the Avs would have a good shift, and you were like, oh, yeah, that's just what they need to get this thing going, and then Pittsburgh would just shut it down. You had the double minor that was the high sticking on Mikko. You got a double minor out of that. Nothing. Your power play was just, it was non-existent at against Pittsburgh. And again, a lot of that is credit to Pittsburgh, but fine. If this is a game that you're going to have that you're going to battle, like after the first like 20 minutes, If you're like, okay, this is how they're playing us. These are adjustments that we need to make. We got to keep playing our game and keep, because our game works. They're trying to take us out of it, which that's what an opponent is supposed to do. But if this is going to be one of those games where you just take what you get and battle. Sometimes you can get a puck or two past the goalie. And it was just like when you had those opportunities and Tristan Jarry shut them down, you were just like, it might be a little while before we get another one of those opportunities. And it was. And because you're not putting those pucks in the net, the Bo Byram one, which was like the beautiful cross ice pass that he just went from right to left, shut that one down. Somebody, I think, Drouin had one right in the slot. Beautiful pass. And he was just perfectly timed. He had some saves that, you run those again and they might get past him, but they were not. And you just had that mindset of like, man, like we might not get another crack at a good shot like that in another, who knows, 4 or 5 minutes.
And you said take what you can get. You had 2 more shots than the Avalanche had in the Islanders game in the second period.
Mm-hmm.
You were 0 for 5 on the power play. And here's a wonderful, wonderful stat that everybody's going to love. This is going to help everybody go to sleep tonight. 39.3% on the faceoff. You let Pittsburgh win 60% of the faceoffs. If you're down like that and Tristan Jarry is having a Mackenzie Blackwood type game where he's getting hotter with every shot, as sparing as they were, you need every opportunity. 0 for 5 on the power play. That's not good. You're down. You lose the game 4-0. I mean, just pot one of those and you can flip momentum and quiet that crowd that was also getting behind this Pittsburgh Penguins team because they needed a win. Everything was working against you. You had opportunities and you squandered them. And it went to Tristan Jarry looking incredible, and he needed that game. And this is something that Pittsburgh can build off of. But can Colorado build out of this? I'm very curious to see what this next Buffalo game looks like.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they bounce back. The Avalanche bounce back. Rarely do you see them, put up like 2 duds in a row. And if you follow us on social media, we put up the 3 keys to the game earlier in the day. And the second one was win the faceoffs, because Pittsburgh is, I think they're 3rd in the league at faceoff wins. And it showed.
Yep.
It showed. And as good as we think the Avalanche are doing at the faceoff dot, ranking wise, they're not. Overall, they're not. Ryan Johansson is doing spectacularly there. Everybody else is pretty much doing what they were doing last year, including Nathan McKinnon. I really think we got to start having that conversation to just moving him out of the faceoff. I know he's our all-world player, but this is a habit now. Like, this is many years in a row where Nathan McKinnon just struggles at, and I would think he's more useful not at the dot, because then if you win the faceoff, that's a guy who can receive the puck, and then he can do his dangle moves and do whatever he wants to do once he gets that puck. I think he's kind of like useless for you when he's at the faceoff dot, because he can't win them. And if you do win them, it's not going to him. Sure, it's going to somebody else like Cale Makar or something like that. I get that. But if you have that duo of like Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon back there, along with Devon Taves, when you win a draw, that's a better setup than if Nathan McKinnon is on the dot. Just thinking out loud for all that. So
we've been having that conversation since Nazem Kadri. Like, Nathan McKinnon doesn't belong there. Yeah. And Gabe Landeskog, that's another instance where his absence is missed. Like, Nathan McKinnon is not meant for that. And against Pittsburgh, they're going to set up that shot of Sid versus Nate. They're going to have that picture perfect moment. But my goodness, this is nights where it really stacks up against you.
If you want to put him out there for the opening faceoff, go for it. Like, I don't care. A center ice faceoff, I don't care about. But the ones like in the offensive zone during a power play, Johansson's been taking those.
Yep.
Understandably so, because those are important faceoffs. So maybe we should restart rethinking this. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Trade him. We got to get faceoff wins.
Yeah. As far as like who played well for the Avs, I mean, you mentioned that that third line. I thought you saw again the work ethic from Miles Wood.
Oh,
He
he's incredible.
in the Islanders game, he played I think the least amount of minutes. I think he was sub 10 minutes by a few seconds.
Had to
And I
do with a
think
lot
it's
of that chippiness in the beginning.
yeah, well, yeah, and I think for him it was like twofold. It's like I play this way anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go all out, and maybe my minutes were reduced a little bit, so I need to even step it up even more. I thought he played his game. He played his game. It's a solid game. It's ugly sometimes. It's sloppy sometimes. He's not the best with the puck, but you live with that if he's hustling his butt off, which I thought he did.
Yeah, that line really works. That Colton Wood Tatar line really works, and I'd like to see the reunion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he just likes Tatar in the top line right now. I think Drouin is doing a little bit better on that line. I don't think he should be on the top line right now. I just don't think he should. So I'm okay with Drouin up there. Let's see here. But you had I mean, I'm trying to see if there's any. McKinnon was a -3. -3. Manson was a -3. Sam Girard was a -3. And you had those defensive plays. Sam Girard tries to go make a defensive play, and for a minute he did. And then, I think it was Manson who came over, and the puck just gets bounced around and goes right to a Penguin player. And that happened twice.
I think that was the Lars Eller goal.
The second one was the second time that happened was the Lars Eller goal. Yeah. Just bounced right over to him. Those aren't on Georgiev. I'm sorry.
Avalanche legend Lars Eller.
Yeah, he finds a way to get those greasy goals, and when the refs don't want to call the whistle when it's covered. I'm not saying that's what happened here. Sens fans know what I'm talking about. All right, we have our people over on Subtext have some things to say. And we have our sound check to get to. So we will do that next. Sleeper, Kyle. Is it the best app that you can download for daily fantasy?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
I don't think there's a question. I don't think
it's part of my daily routine.
Yeah. New NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Nathan McKinnon could score 50 goals. Mikko Rantanen could score 50 goals. Cale Makar could score 50 goals. I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, we can dream.
Drouin for 20.
The Avalanche could hoist the Stanley Cup again. Obviously, that could definitely happen. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. And Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Next matchup with the Avs is the Sabres. Anybody you're focusing on for that one, Kyle, coming off this loss?
I said it last time, and I'm going to say it again. This feels like a Nichushkin, like
he played
come-out
great
game.
We should, yes, he did have a good game. So I like that pick. Very good pick. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Crosby or McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. So you can use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That code is LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. I said that word right finally.
Beautiful.
All right. Our people over on Subtext had a couple things to say about this game. Let's see. Devin said, if any team handles the first loss, I'm glad it was the Penguins. So he's basically saying, I'm glad it was the Penguins that beat the Avalanche for their first loss. He says they have a great offense and defense with decent goaltending. Their offense was struggling.
Yeah.
Up until this game, they had not. I think I read a stat where they had not any game. The 3 losses that they had not scored more than 3 goals. So, but coming into this game, they were a little bit lethargic on offense. But they do. I mean, they have a better offensive team than they've been putting out, and defensively, yeah, they're a pretty sound defensive team. And Jarry is a good goaltender.
Yeah.
He's not an all-world goaltender, but he's capable of doing what he did. So give credit to him. And yeah, this was my Stanley Cup matchup, if people remember.
That's right.
This was. And I think, this is what the Penguins can do. Can they do it consistently? I think that remains to be seen. But yeah, they have a good offense, they're good all across the board. They should be anyway.
That's a better team than their record shows.
Absolutely. This is from our boy. This is from Vargar. The only thing I can say is that Crosby really wanted to put his boy Nate in his place. Jarry showed what he can do when he's healthy. Georgie, who's been the story this year, had his third subpar performance. He needs a break. I think if you heard what I said earlier, I think maybe he gets a break in Buffalo. But guys, like, this is early in the season. Like, and Jared Bednar said it before the game. He was asked about it. And he said, like, this is the slowest part of our schedule.
Yeah.
Like, games pick up for, November, December, January. That's when he's going to get a break. And then I know it's in the playoffs, that's the only guy who plays. And those games are every other day. I know they're more, season conditioned by then, but he's in shit. Like, he's not exhausted.
No,
he's not tired. You know who's tired? The guys the forwards that play every single day. Like, those guys might be tired, not Georgiev.
Yeah. And let's just be real. This is our 7th game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and who are we bringing in, by the way?
Yeah. Come on. Right. Exactly.
Is that really something you want to risk right now?
Not against
I understand
Pittsburgh, no.
you want to save Georgiev, but you are putting the rest of the team out to dry with a gamble.
And you mentioned, they do have obviously a big game coming up against Vegas. So you want to time that to where Georgiev is as fresh as can be. He's going to get a break here. What do they have? 2 games before the Vegas game?
Yep. It's Buffalo and St. Louis.
Okay. So if it's me, sure. Rest him for Buffalo, play him St. Louis. So he gets back into game flow, and then he plays the Vegas game too. And we go from there. But this whole thing about, like, he needs a rest because, like, why? Because people think he's exhausted in the 6th game of the season. We have a long way to go, people, if you think Georgiev can't play more than 6 games in a row. Come on. I know. If you think, like, because he hasn't played well, yeah, seriously. If you think because he hasn't played well the past couple of games, he needs a break, then that's a discussion that we can have.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that, but the whole, like, he's tired thing is just nonsense right now, if you ask me. And finally, this is from Easton. Got the first loss out of the way early. Now we can study it and continue to improve. I mean, we're always going to have a loss at some point early in the season. So, but he's right. Like, the Avs are a very good team coming out of a loss. So I expect a much different game in Buffalo for 2 reasons. Yeah, you're coming off a loss, and Buffalo's struggling to start the season. But for how Pittsburgh plays, you might get that from Buffalo too, because for that fact that they haven't come out of the gate hot.
And so we'll see, not just the first loss, but first shutout. And we're going to forget about this come Christmas time when you're like, have they been shut out this year? And you have to remember the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, there you go. All right, last bit of business, and that is our Locked On Avalanche Soundcheck. Kyle and I pick one song each that we feel best summarizes the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. You just have to search for LOA Soundcheck. This is volume number 3. So search for that, follow along. And I tipped my hand earlier, but I don't know. I'm debating. So go ahead. What do you got for this one? And then I'll finalize mine here.
This one kind of sums up my feelings in the first and second period. I was at war with my feelings about this game and that third intermission. And you know what? We're going to go with Rage Against the Machine.
Sure.
Sleep Now in the Fire.
Okay.
The cost of my desire. Sleep Now in the Fire. It's a very...
hang on. Go ahead.
No, it's a ragey song. I was very ragey.
You were raging.
And I was very angry. And this song just fits it. Like, okay, it's done. Sleep Now in the Fire. Your unbeaten season. Forget the 82-0 because that happens all the time. Like, let's move on and get back to business.
Yeah. And a great video, by the way. On the steps of the stock exchange. Gotta love that video. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. We probably could do a Rage Against the Machine song after every loss.
Probably.
That could be a thing if you wanted to make it one, but it's fitting. For me, I had a song which I just heard for the first time, like actually when we were in Long Island. And I was gonna pick that, but I think I'm gonna change it now because I kept saying, like, what if this happened? What if this whole game it was like, what if? And I'm gonna go the Creed route, Kyle.
Oh my!
I'm gonna go the Creed route, and I'm gonna go with what if? Why not? I had a different song. The song I had was called "Dang," and it was because it was on. I was watching Stephen Colbert, and that was a musical guest. The name of the song was. I'm like, oh, that's kind of fitting. It's like, dang. But what if is a better song for this?
Because when you said like, what if, and you said, I think I have a soundcheck change.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, please God, let it be Creed, please.
Yeah, why not?
That's why you're the captain.
Because it's true. You had those moments of what if they scored something on that double minor power play? Yep. They didn't have those turnovers. If the puck didn't bounce around and they were able to get the puck out of the zone, and I know hockey is a big what if. It's maybe the biggest what if of any of the sports, but especially for this game, it just seems fitting for this game. So we'll go with
that. It's rough to remember the Canadians were in the Stanley Cup in 2021. That's how silly this sport is. So once you put that in perspective, like it's just the Penguins. It's one loss. Let's move on.
Hilarious. All right. That is going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day, following us along the way when we were in Long Island. So we're back to normal, and now the week is over. So now we have to really get back to normal on Monday, but we'll be able to talk about another game, and that is the Sabres game in the afternoon too. That's an early start game, which is always nice. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, making it your first listen. And he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday.